Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cynthia Linox Show. I am your host, Cynthia Linox. Here we are, 9 weeks away from 2026, 9 weeks away from the end of the year. And for those of you that have made New Year's resolutions back in 2024 for 2025, I certainly hope that you have accomplished or met at least one of your uh, New Year's resolution, as we call it. Personally, I don't make resolutions simply because, for me, in my mind, it becomes performative and it doesn't really give me the freedom to be organic and to be authentically me because I'm trying to make something happen. I want it to happen. Of course, I have goals and desires and so forth, and I lock in energetically. I exercise that energetic authority and lock into that, and that's kind of how it works for me. And I know it works because I have receipts. And this year, it's one of the most important things for me is my personal growth, the way I'm evolving, the way I am growing, the way I am developing. I thirst for knowledge and knowledge on how to live better, how to live successfully, how to live peacefully, how to live happy, and in every area of my life, whether it's my business life, social, my personal life, my intimate life. I want to grow in every area of my life, and I pay close attention to that because that's really what fulfills me, and to me, that's what life is all about. And as I take care of myself, and all that has to do with self-care, then I become a better version of myself for you, for the world, for my family, for my friends, acquaintances, my husband, all of that. When I become a better version of myself, then I can give the best of me to the world. So anyway, and for me, it's been a fantastic year. I've learned to come into this place of peace where it's like I download this program into my mind and I know how to tap into it and to stay there, because you have to be so intentional and conscious and deliberate about staying in your peace. Otherwise, you get distracted because there are a lot of things around us that's very distracting. I don't want to go into, having an opinion about everything. I don't need to know everything, well, the details of everything that's going on. I do want to be relevant, aware, knowing what's going on, but I don't need to know the nitty gritty. I don't need to know all the gory stuff. I don't need to know all the things that are sad or what society may deem unfair and the injustices and all that. I don't want to get into that. I really want to focus on me and myself and I. And that's been working out great for me. And I trust that it's been working out great for you as well. Now, I know that a lot of you are going through a phase. And that phase, you may not even recognize that it's the process of recreating yourself, reinventing yourself. You are coming out of that place. I'm going to be looking here because I've got my iPad set up here with some notes that I wrote. And so anyway, a lot of you are going through this phase of change, and sometimes you don't even recognize what's happening to you. Sometimes you haven't even defined what it is because it's all new. Yet again, your soul, your spirit is attracted to shows, podcasts like mine, and other podcasts as well that are talking about personal development and living organically, or living your full life, living your best, living to the fullest, living your best life, being authentic, remembering who you are, going back to your child self, where there is contentment and happiness and joy that happen organically, and getting out of your performative mode, getting out of the identity that's been imposed upon you growing up by social construct, by your surroundings, cultural construct, religious indoctrination, all of those external forces, external influences shaped us, every one of us. That's by default. We can't help that because that's part of our growth. We grow up and we take on the social structures that's been imposed upon us, and we don't have any control over that, except for sometimes when we become a teenager, we get into this rebellious stage, and some rebel more than others, and that's really a stage of coming out. You are coming out of the shell. You're coming out of the bondage, the stifling feeling of conforming to the structures set up by someone else's idea of how you should live. We all have within us how we want to live. And it's not a matter of good or bad, right or wrong, true or false. It's simply that you want to be your authentic self so that you can live and be happy with who you are. Because you'll come to find out that the universe is neutral. It doesn't respond to morality. It doesn't respond to fairness. It responds to energy and vibration. And when you understand that and you start being yourself and knowing what to do and how it all works, you will see your life start unfolding in a way that the things that you desire will come to pass. That's what it's really all about. Because you see, my friend, your life is governed, or should be governed. It's really should be governed by your birthright. But if you don't understand that, then you would think that what society gives to you is a privilege, it's an honor, it's a gift, and so forth. As a matter of fact, I had an experience. I was on the phone with someone, and we had to do some adjustments because we paid for something we didn't get, and so forth. So I'm on the phone with this person, and of course we had to escalate this situation because the first level that I got was not in a position, or whether she was in a position or not, she couldn't make the decision that I needed her to make. So it was escalated to someone senior, and in talking, the person said, well, I'm going to give you this. And so, I said, no, you're not giving me anything. You're not giving me anything. And I just want to make this clear for the record. You're making the decision to do what's right because I already paid for that service. Now, you could not provide that period of time, and which was extensive. And so you need to cover that. You need to compensate for that time. So I just want to make clear, this is not a gift. You are making a decision to compensate me for something that I already paid for. And, of course, there was silence, but, it was kind of a brutal approach, but that was okay because she got the message. And why? Because it was my right for her to make that decision. And it's funny because the other girl, I said to her, I said, why can't you make that decision? I said, don't you know that's the way you get promoted? Because authority is not granted. Authority is assumed. So you need to make that decision because it's the right thing. And then you can tell your superiors why you did it. They'll respect you for it. I know that from working in corporate America. I didn't wait to ask for things. Can I do this? Can I do that? Can I, no. I made decisions left and right. And it's funny because some of my colleagues, they would be like, you did what? Yeah. So anyway, the point is, you have to understand that, joy is your birthright. Peace is your birthright. Abundance is your birthright. Happiness is your birthright. Safety is your birthright. Provision is your birthright. Health is your birthright. Once you approach life with that mindset that all these things are your birthright, then you would know that it's not that you're privileged, it's just that you that's your birthright. You have the right to be happy. You have the right to live in abundance. You have the right, that's and we are so influenced by the construct that we that's imposed upon us, and we get so used to the repetition, because when you repeat something over and over and over, your nervous system takes it in as truth, and it begins to perform as if it's true. And people that say, one of the things that I highlighted some what do you call it, some traditional sayings that that's been imposed upon us, that people created and we all run with it. That saying that says money doesn't buy happiness. And I can tell you that there was a time that I wondered about that. I struggled with it and so forth. And when you subscribe to that kind of thinking, my friend, guess what? Your whole system will take upon that, and will begin to conduct your life accordingly. You will pay more attention to lack and poverty and scarcity and all of that, as opposed to the person that thinks, yeah, money can buy happiness. That's the way I think now. And interestingly enough, because I think that way, I operate that way. And when I say money can buy happiness, yes, it can. It absolutely can, because money, now that, there are situations with people needing help and so forth. If you have money, guess what? You can help someone else. And when you do that, what happens to you? You get so happy. The other day, my husband and I, we went out to, dinner, and I think I mentioned before, from the moment the server approaches our table, first impression is what she's judged by me, because I'm the one that like to give, we always go equipped with cash to make sure that we can give them cash. And the moment she approached our table and, she took our drinks and so forth, order for drinks. And I said to my husband, I said, she's going to get some money out of me. And he just chuckled. But at the end of throughout the whole course of our dining experience, she was just absolutely fabulous. She made sure she came back and she checked, and we were missing nothing, absolutely nothing. And when we were finished, she brings the bill and she gives it to my husband. My husband's like, why are you giving it to me? Give it to her. So she gives it to me, and I'm like, no. Anyway, so he takes the bill, and I said, her name was Deja. And I said, Deja, I said, no, he gets the bill and I take care of you. And it was just such a pleasant experience. And that's the way we just kind of like to interact with people. And I'm telling you, it pleased me so much. I did not even look at the percentage, like, how they kind of encourage, like, what is it, 18%, 20%? No. I thought she's going to have the absolute delight. She's going to have a delightful experience. And so, we signed off on the bill and put it in the envelope and inserted the cash. And I'm telling you, so my husband's like, what, how much did you put in? And when I told him, he's like, oh, okay. Why? Because money can buy happiness. It made me happy. Not that I'm buying it, but that's the phrase that's used, but it made me so happy. Imagine what it did to her. It did not even match. It was way above what they recommend. And it made me so happy. When you have money, and I'm telling you this so that you can start looking at it from a whole different standpoint, a whole different view, get some new lens and start looking at it differently. Because, when you have it, you can give it. When you have it, you can give it. You can do whatever you want. I've been listening to a podcast lately, and they're talking about self-care, and well, it's not about self-care, but they were talking about that, and they're saying, as you elevate yourself, you want to treat your body well, and you want to wear, she said, you want to, be mindful of wearing natural fabrics and things like that. She go linen, wool, cotton, and what was the other one? Silk, and so forth. And um I was kind of like taken by that because I like other fabrics that are blended. But the point is, I start paying attention to that. And because they said, well, your body can breathe better and all that kind of stuff. It lays well and so forth. And guess what? I decided I'm going to get me a brand new wardrobe. And everything now that I look for, it's natural fabrics and so forth. Why? Money allows you to do that. And you need to do that unapologetically. You don't ask for permission. You don't ask for approval. You don't ask for validation. You just do it. And that's what money allows you to do. Down to, you know, my personal intimacies and whatever, I'm looking for natural fibers. Why? Because, I'm looking at myself totally different. And I share this with you, my friends, so that you can do the same, male or female, man or woman. That you can do the same or do whatever pleases you. That's the whole thing. That may not mean anything to you, and that's fine. But if it means something to you, if it is something, whatever it is that you listen to, you hear, you see, you can make the changes that you want. And when I talk about money, when they say money doesn't buy happiness, it is a lie. It is a social construct. I don't know who came up with that, but it's a social construct. Money can buy happiness. I had a friend, one of my friends, her husband came down with a serious illness, a life-threatening illness, and they travel all over the world trying to get him stem cell treatment. It's very expensive. We're talking thousands of dollars. And they would go to Asia, and they would go to Latin America. They would go to Europe, wherever there was an advance, so they knew something new. And what happened, it extended his life, I think, like by 2 or 3 years. I didn't know her at that time, but she shared with me how much money they spent. I mean, her husband and she, of course, traveled with him. So they had to, and he was an architect and did very well internationally and so forth, that they had traveled all over the world. And when he came down with that ailment, they went all over. They traveled all over the world for him to get stem cell treatment, and it extended his life a few more years because of the medical intervention. He died eventually, but she was just so happy because she shares with me that he was uh, one of the good guys, the best husband, treated her like a queen and took care of her, great father, great husband, and so forth. But money, if they didn't have the money to do that, he would have been gone. Why? Because he was deteriorating quickly, rapidly. But because they had the money to travel, they were able to go all over. One month they went to Asia, and he was there. Imagine the amount of money they had to spend to stay there, to travel, to stay housed in the hospital, then in a hotel, because you can't come right back. You have to gain a little strength. And then another time, when he had some kind of reaction, they had to go someplace else. And then, when they learned that there was some kind of advancement in Europe, one of the countries, European countries, then they went to Europe. And that's how they did for a few years. And it extended his life because he was supposed to have been gone like right away. But because of the medical intervention, he was able to sustain life a few years longer, which made them happy because they enjoyed each other and their marriage and so forth, the kids and so forth. So when somebody says to you that money doesn't buy happiness, again, my friend, and as you are leveling up, not everybody is going to come with you. Understand that you are leveling up to a new version of you. And most people are going to like the old version of you. Why? Because they're familiar with it. They're familiar with it. They're familiar with the routine. They're familiar with the repetition. They're familiar with the chaos. They're familiar with the drama. They're familiar with comme ci, comme ça, everything, the same. But when you are leveling up, in a lot of cases, it isolation comes with it. But that's just for a short period of time, because after a while you're going to really lock into some people of like mind with whom you can have conversations. That I'm just getting into that space, and sometimes it's not easy to pivot from the comfort zone to the zone of isolation. And when I say isolation, I don't necessarily mean that you are isolated where you have no contact with anyone, but you're going to start finding out, you're going to start to realize that the conversations that's being held, you are no longer part of that conversation, because you want to talk about new things. You want to talk about growth. You want to talk about development. You want to talk about innovation. You want to talk about new things that are relevant. And if they're not growing, they are stuck. They have plateaued in life. I'm sure you have friends that talk about the same thing all the time. They talk about people, they talk about family members, they gossip, or all they talk about is things that are not relevant. And it's there's nothing wrong if you share about some areas of your life and all that, but if that's all you have to talk about, then you're not aligning energetically, and you have to come to a place where you not only see it, you realize it, recognize it, acknowledge it, but you know that you have to make a change. Because you know what? The more you hang on to the old, to the past, to the familiar, the longer it's going to take for you to get into your new version, to transition into your new version, for that transformation to happen. Why? Because this is a old wine skin. You can't put new wine into old wine skin. You have to get a new wineskin, a new mindset, a new way of being, of seeing things. And until you recognize this, you know what? And I'm not saying that it's easy. It is not easy, because, but you have to have enough self-love, attention to yourself, self-love, to choose. Am I going to stay with the old, or am I going to move on? It's not easy, because as we stay with the old, there you get affirmation, you get validation, approval. And I see it all the time. I see it on social media. I've had to come away from just people that are stuck in the old. There's nothing wrong with that for them, but for me, no. When you move on, it's new things. I find myself having lunch dates with women, and we sit and we talk about how to and exchange receipts as to the things that have happened to us in our lives that prove this new path of reinvention of the new version of ourselves. And when you get to a new version of yourself, that's not where you stop. You are continuing to grow and to develop and to learn, and because there is just so much. And one of the things that I find important today is you've got to get to that place of peace. And I'm finding that you have to be so deliberate because of all the distractions. And if people try to keep you, drag you down to that old version, then what does it bring? It brings anxiety, depression, and it's not healthy for you. But what happens? You have to have courage. You have to have courage, because when you exude a certain energy, that is the language of the universe. It understands your energy and the vibration that you exude. How does that happen? By your thoughts, the emotions that you have. See, I get pretty excited, when I learn something new, and when I just get so wild because it resonates, and that's what it is. It resonates with what I already know. That's the interesting thing about it, is as you learn, you come to realize that it's things that you already know. It's just that you have not been in the environment where you can expose it, where you can live it, where you can share it. Why? Because the collective, the masses, we have been living under a system that keeps us stuck and beat down, and it's like this whole concept of money doesn't buy you happiness. Imagine that mindset. When you stay with that mindset, guess what? Scarcity will just roam around. Why? Because again, the universe is neutral. It doesn't judge, and in terms of like, well, you're a good person and you're gonna get this. No, it responds to your vibration. It responds to energy. And when you put out that energy of fear, apprehension, scarcity, lack, broke, and it's not only a behavior, it's your thought, worry, fear. When you respond to all of that, when you have all of that, the universe responds to that, and it shuts the doors and it puts up a wall. And why? Because it responds to whatever energy you put out. That's why it is so important that you align with truth, with your truth. And another thing that I have come to realize is that not everyone really believes this or buys or whatever. They don't. But in the meantime, their lives shows no receipts, or the receipts are like, recycled receipts. Repeat, 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 work, conform, repeat, work, conform, repeat, repeat, repeat. That's not what you want. You want new. You want new adventure. You want new. You want spontaneity. You want to reinvent everything in your life. You want new because there is always new. There is always new. And that's what you want. That is what we all want. Newness of life. But you have to understand, it's your energy. It is your energy. What do you think? Okay, let's look at this. Why do you think people like, that are narcissistic, the cheaters, the liars, the psychopath, the, all those people that we quote unquote deem bad behavior, bad people, whatever, the sociopath? What do you think? It seems like they get everything they want. They things always go well for them. They get everything they want. Why? Because they understand how it works. They understand how it works. They lie, they get away with it. They cheat, they get away with it. They're unfair, they get away with it. Why? It's not because of the universe being partial to them. No, the universe is neutral, but it responds to the energy that you put out. Why? Because they believe in themselves. They believe in themselves. They believe in what they say. They believe in their behavior, and they are unapologetic. That's why in this life, to be nice, are losers. You want to be kind, not nice. Nice is a social construct. You tell your kid, be nice, be not. No, don't tell them to be nice. Tell them to show kindness, not even be kind. I don't want to be, I want to show, demonstrate kindness. I want to be me. And out of being me comes that behavior, that reaction, that experience. I show kindness and I'm mindful of that. But as far as being nice, I don't think in terms of being nice. But most parents, you tell your kid, come on, be nice, Johnny, be nice, Pete, Bobby, whatever, be nice. You lose trying to be nice to people. You have to be fierce. You have to be confident. You have to be assertive in the things that you do. That's why it is important that you understand how this works. Because why? It brings you receipts, which means things manifest in your life. Brings you receipts. That's the whole thing about living, about life, about growing, evolving. You need to see things work. Things must work for you. You have to see results. If you don't see results, it's all blah, blah, blah. And repeating the same things over and over and over and over and over again. Make no mistake. The universe is neutral. And whatever energy you exude, whatever vibration you exude, that is what it responds to. If I have certain images, people talk about a vision board and so forth. My vision board is, I do it electronically. I don't have a board. That doesn't work for me, but it doesn't matter what you do. And the thing, I had this conversation with my husband last night. And, we had to center in our thoughts or vision and so forth. And we kind of went back to memory lane of occasions where we have desired things for our home, our lives, and so forth, and how we accomplished it. And it was just beautiful because we went back and we said, you remember when we wanted this and how we did, and you remember when we wanted this, and you remember how this happened, and we were like, yeah, and we replaced this and we did this and we did this, and we are like, where did all that resource come from? Of course we both, we work and things, but whenever you have something that you desire, don't think about the resources, don't think about the finances, don't think about any of that. Make a decision, have your vision, because the as you keep that in your mind, as you keep that in your thoughts, you create an image. I am one that's visual. So if I want something and I know what it is, I get a picture and I put it in front of me. My passcode, my passwords, they're all related to my vision. They're all related to my vision. So when I see it, it reminds me, and I keep reminding myself. And once it becomes part of you, that's it. There's no escape, my friend. There's no escape. It will give you receipts. Why? Because first of all, it's your birthright. But we haven't been taught that. We've been taught a lot of things. to be afraid and this and when you think about the narcissist, the cheater, the liar, and all of that, when you think of the things that they do, yet it seems like life works for them. They're not afraid. They're not afraid. And even if they find themselves afraid for a moment, they pivot right back into faith in themselves. They pivot. They understand how this works. I know because I understand how it works. But this is not a conversation you can have with everyone, simply because not everyone flows that way. People are flowing back into their traditional mindset. Talking to someone about Melissa, the hurricane that's hitting Jamaica and Cuba and those islands and so forth, and they said, we really have to pray. And I said, well, the prayer should have been before, so that it would be averted and not hit those countries, not after. It should be, if that's what you believe in, but you have to have receipts. The receipts would have been, I prayed and it was averted. They weren't hit, but that wasn't the case. So that doesn't apply to me, but that's how I posed it to her. And of course, they made them think. And for your life, again, you have to think a new way. That's one of the reasons you're watching this show, because you are drawn to this. It's by no accident. You are drawn to this, and you are getting new information or a different type of information so that you can recreate your life to meet your needs, to be who you want to become. The best version of yourself. And get out of traditional mode. A lot of, you may say, well, what do you have against tradition? Well, tradition keeps you bound. It keeps you stuck, stifled. Makes you helpless. But when you are dealing with the reality of how things work, neuroscientists will tell you that your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, and your actions, your behavior, it's almost like you are creating it yourself. That's why if you think of the elements around you, if you think in a fearful manner, then yeah, you will be fearful. You will be afraid to go out, afraid to do this, afraid to do that. No, I don't think in those terms. Of course, you use wisdom and you're cautious and you're prudent and so forth, but I'm not afraid. I don't want to walk around afraid. Why? Because I, in my mind, know that I am safe, secured, and protected. Those are the thoughts that goes through my mind when I think of myself, when I think of my husband, when I think of my family. I think in those terms. But when it comes to me, I think in those terms. And that's why as I learn things, I try to make those changes in my life. Why? Because they suit me. One of the things that I hear also, as a matter of fact, my friend said that to me not too long ago. We were talking about something, and she says, beauty. What did she say? Beauty is pain. We're talking about this same thing about developing and growing and really becoming the best version of yourself and so forth. And then she said, beauty is pain. And I didn't give any thought to that. I laugh because I remember years ago, I used to wear these high heels when my husband met me, and 6-inch heels and so forth. And if I would see a pair of shoes, even if they were small, I would buy it and just wear it. And when he met me and he said, well, wait a minute, he says, after we became closer, he said, well, those shoes are too small if they hurt your feet. And so we went to the store, they measured my feet, and come to find out I was a whole size larger, kind of. But if you're buying leather shoes, the leather kind of tends to stretch to accommodate your feet and all that. But the point is, um, back then, yeah, beauty, because I would look so fly, so dope, and but I was in pain. Today, now, that'll never happen. That will never happen today. Well, a long time ago, I changed that. I remember we went out and bought a few pairs of shoes and, bought the right size and so forth. But, but today, I'm not about to be in discomfort at any moment. I went out and I bought some shoes that were lower heels, comfortable. Why? Because when I go out, I want to be in comfort at all times. I'm just redoing everything. As I'm learning things, I'm just redoing everything. And I make sure that, any dress shoes or whatever, of course, yes, they have to be nice and, sexy and so forth. But the point is, I'm going to go for comfort. Why? Because I always want to be at my best. And if you come back to the money doesn't buy happiness, that's a lie. Because if you are able to do that, to make these changes in your life, then that's happiness. So I want to encourage you, my friend, get rid of those thoughts, get rid of those cliches, those sayings, those beliefs that are not true. Rethink them. Because if you think money doesn't buy happiness, it will keep you in a mindset of lack, poverty, broke, scarcity. It will keep you with that kind of mindset. And you look at money totally different. When I see money, money is a tool. I love money. Money is a tool that I can use to do the things that I desire to do. So it's how you see it. It is how you see it. You don't have to accept, somebody, said the other day that you have to, life keeps lifing, and we have to put ourselves in a position where we accept that life is lifing. I don't put myself in any position to accept that life is lifing. I always put myself in a position of no limitation, in a position of safety, in a position of abundance, in a position of kindness, that life will be kind to me and smile on me and safety. I put myself in that position mentally, psychologically, emotionally, and physically. You don't have to. That's why, I vet everything. When somebody says something, I'm like, oh, okay. I don't yes to everything, simply because, and it doesn't mean, that's good for them. That's why I say that you are always welcome to create what works for you. But the bottom line is, it must work. You must be able to produce receipts. You must be able to show that it's working. You must be able, to produce. Another one of the things that people say, which are things that, again, just keeps you locked in. Giving is better than receiving. What the hell is that? Think about that. I used to say that too. Why? By repetition. That's what I've heard all my life, especially when I was in, a certain period of my life. And I used to, giving is better than receiving. That's a lie. Who says giving is better than receiving? It's good to give. I feel great when I give, but damn it, I'm happy when I receive, especially if it's something that I want. Like between my husband and I'm not one that you're surprised. If you're gonna give me a gift, I'm gonna let you know what I want. I want this bag, or I want this, or I want that, whatever it is. I want a new laptop. I want this. Then I'm happy. That's just the way it works between us. I can surprise him because I kind of know what he likes, and I can shop well for him. But for me, I'm specific, and when he gives me something, it feels good. So when somebody's, and in this whole idea about giving is better than receiving, today it's different. Today is reciprocity. It's giving and receiving, giving and receiving. So don't buy into that. I mean, you can if you want to, but I don't, not anymore. Giving is better. It's better to give than to receive. Who the hell came up with that? Who came up with that? Because look, if you have a medical situation and you need a new kidney, you're going to tell me that the recipient, the giver, it's better for the giver than the recipient? That's absolutely not true. Because the recipient's life is being saved or extended because of a new kidney or whatever. New kidney, new heart, new eye, whatever. The recipient. So when you say it's better to give than to receive, no, the person receiving the organ is the person that's benefiting from the gift of life. So don't buy that. Think about it. You see, this growth experience have me vetting everything, evaluating everything that I hear. There's no such thing as a free lunch. That's a lie. Who said that? Who came up with that? Who came up with that? The other day I went out with someone. We agreed to meet and to go out. And we went to this restaurant. It was quite, pricey and so forth. And when I go out, obviously, I go prepared to pay for me. I go prepared to pay for my own, whatever it is that I consume, and to give a tip. So when the waiter would say, is this going to be one check or two? I just say two, separate checks. Well, this person said, no, it'll be one check. I'll take care of that. And there was no strings attached, none at all. And I said, well, let me take care of the tip. And I did that. And again, what was his name? Will, our server, just a great guy. We always, anyway, was myself and a friend. And I was just pleased to make sure that he got a great tip because the service was just excellent and it was a great restaurant and so forth. So when they say there's no such thing as a free lunch, what does that mean? And who came up with that? And how can you believe that? There's no such thing as a free lunch. And I know what it means. But it's not true. It all depends on how you process it. These are things that you will be, another one is family comes first. Family comes first. As a matter of fact, next week, I believe I'm going to, I'm trying to put something together where we have this thing. Thanksgiving is next month. And a lot of people are going through anxiety because they know they have to meet with their family. And then, this person doesn't speak to the other person and so forth. And when you say family is everything, is not necessarily true because, you come together and then you would have one that doesn't speak to the other, or the sister that shows up without her husband because they don't like her husband, and there's no truth to that gathering. And then you have to sit, or you have to be in the same room in some families with an uncle that essayed, sexually assaulted someone, and now you're grown and you remember that secret, and your heart hurts, and there's so many things. So when they say family is everything, that is not true. Now, and don't get me wrong, there's some families that are close and that's wonderful, but I am telling you, family is not everything. And family is your community, your tribe, the people that you have put together that wants to be in your life and you want to be in their life. Now, if you have a great relationship with all your family members, that is wonderful. And I applaud that. I think that is so great, but it's not always, when you come together, it's about speaking truth. It's about being true to yourself and not performative. And that's what happens, particularly during Thanksgiving. You sit at a table and you perform. It's just performing. And, you go around and you give thanks for this and thanks for that. And there's no truth to it. I remember one time we were invited to a Thanksgiving, and held hands and somebody prayed, and then everyone had to say something, what they're grateful for. And I just found that so awkward because I had to think of something. I had to think of something because the things that I'm grateful for, they're personal. And I could share it with my husband, but so I had to think of something. And so it was performative. And that's what happens with people that have not come into the knowledge of who they are and walking organically in your own authenticity. When you know who you are and you can walk in that place of knowing, in that place of embracing all of who you are, and you don't care or you're not affected or influenced by what people say or what they think of you. You are just your true self. It's your true self. It's just like when people say, for Thanksgiving, two things we never talk about: politics and religion. Now imagine that. So imagine you, the person that's evolving. You are evolving into a brand new version of yourself. You love yourself. You have peace. There is no chaos in your life. You love the person that you are becoming. You no longer subscribe to the traditional mindset of this. You're probably leaning toward a different type of political viewpoint, regardless of what it is. And you're questioning your religious belief and the tradition and all the things that's been imposed upon you. You are changing. So that means if you go into a family setting where it is said that we won't talk about religion or politics, you cannot be your truth. You cannot be your truth. Why? Because you want to share the joy of who you are, what you're feeling, how you're growing, and how you feel about yourself, and to share with others. And I used to think this way, but now I think I believe this way, and I've seen my life transform. You're no longer depressed. You're no longer anxious. You're off this medication. You're doing this now. You're going out. You met someone, and all of that. You can't share that. Why? Because it's announced that no politics and no religion. So you cannot even share your truth. You cannot share like I am changing now, and I've awakened to some truth that I find work in my life. And I am seeing someone that is different. Well, he doesn't fit into this traditional mindset. And at some point, I would like the family to meet him and whatever. And just imagine the drama and the chaos. If it's a strong family that believes in family tradition, and this is the way we've always done it. This is the way we do the potato salad. This is the way we do the macaroni and cheese. This is the way we do the pumpkin pie. This is the way we do it. And we are not changing. Why? Because that is our tradition. How can you be your true self in that kind of environment? So you see, it is upon you. You have to make the decision to change, to become, to portray your truth, your reality. It takes courage. It takes courage and assertiveness. You've got to be assertive and confident. But what I have found is that once you know who you are, it doesn't really matter what anyone else says. They're not going to tell you to your face what they think about you or what that's not going to happen. They'll talk behind your back. And then again, people have the right to their own opinions, and that's okay. It should not affect your life. Why? Because your life is not performative. Now, if your life was performative, then when you get in the presence of these whomever, family, friends, or whatever, then you would have to perform. You would have to perform. Why? To fit in and to accommodate. You would have to shrink sometimes. Shrink yourself. Lower your who you are. Shrink yourself so that you can fit in, so that you can conform to the environment, to the setting, to fit in. That's madness. That's personal madness. You just that brings stress. That raises your cortisol. That brings stress and causes a lot of situations. Sometimes it's better that you just stay home. You just stay with yourself, embrace your peace, and sit home, get yourself a nice book, or binge watch Netflix, TV, whatever. Get yourself a glass of wine. You can go to Whole Foods or Central Market, one of those specialty shops, and buy yourself a meal and enjoy yourself. This Thanksgiving stuff, that's not, I don't celebrate Thanksgiving anyway. Sometimes if we're invited out, we go, but it's not something that I celebrate. I used to, but it's like, do you know the real history of Thanksgiving? Do you know why you're giving thanks to, or what? Thanksgiving, what's the holiday about? Most people don't know what it's about. But again, you work, perform, repeat, work, perform, repeat. So life is just a performative machine. And that's what you want to get away from. The performance experience. It's madness, and it's tiring. You want to get to a place where you can live and breathe the fresh air and make decisions that's suitable for you. And if you have a partner, hopefully you're both evolving at the same time. My husband and I realized not too long ago that it's like, gosh, we're really fortunate because we are both evolving different areas, different ways, but then because we share a lot of what we learn with each other, then I know what he knows what I know. And sometimes if we don't quite get it at the same time, that's okay, but at least that you are evolving and you're not stagnant into the old traditional mindset, way of doing things. It's time to level up, my friend, and recognize, acknowledge, and know that unrest that you're feeling, that thing that makes you look and check all the time, it's because you are leveling up. It's because you're leveling up. And when you're leveling up, don't expect applause from anyone. Don't expect people to clap. You need to validate yourself and move forward boldly and confidently, assertively, and you just move forward in the fullness with your full chest out. It takes time, but start small steps, baby steps, until you come into the fullness of who you are. I'm going to leave you with that. So that you can sup on that. Go look in the mirror and start really loving the person that you see a little more. We have a date every Thursday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here. Now, if you can't meet me here at 2 p.m., then you see the icons down here, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can pick up this stream 24/7. In the meantime, if you need to write to me, go to info@thecynthialinoxshow.com. I'm also a life coach, and I offer a 30-minute complimentary chat just to see that we align and comfort zone and so forth. And but I'm your girl. If you want to grow and need someone to guide you and support you and walk alongside with you, I'm your girl. In the meantime, I'm going to say have a fantastic weekend. Have a great weekend. And whatever you do, again, and remember, it's nine weeks before your year end. So in the meantime, do whatever you need to do to get ready for that new season that's coming up, and we'll take it from there. Have a great weekend. Ciao, amigos. Au revoir. A tu salud. Hasta luego.